My name is Rory Houlihan. I ran for U.S. Senate last spring, 2016, to stop the ticking time bomb so I could put our economy on track for a bright new day instead of all things ending. Well, I lost the election, not running, but the ticking time bombs are still here, if not more so. Let me educate you on the ticking time bombs and give you the rest of the story. Part 17F, the Second Amendment again. So, for those who believe in the strict interpretation of the law, the right of the U.S. government, federal, state, and local. From the inception of the Second Amendment on, government had the right to exclude sectors of the population. Remember, people with a capital P. And the first office of a well regulated umbrella, let's be honest, was intended and created so that good, basically white folk, understand who they were, would have the guns to hunt and protect themselves with. The Second Amendment was never intended to guarantee the right to have a gun to everyone. How many of you believe that criminals have a right to a gun? How about terrorists? Do you think terrorists have a right to a gun? How many believe that the mentally insane have a right to a gun? And yet today, when federal, state, or local legislators try to keep guns out of criminal hands, the Alcons and the conservative gun rights lobby, like the NRA, yell, shall not be infringed. When the federal government tries to keep guns out of terrorist hands, the Alcons and the conservative gun advocacy group, like the NRA, yelled, shall not be infringed. And finally, just this last month, March 2017, the U.S. Alcon representatives just passed a bill that giving the mentally ill the right to have a gun. Even after an American sniper was shot in the back by a mentally ill person. Being in retail, I know very well that a few can ruin things for the many. There is a cost to letting bad guys have guns, and that's more restrictive gun laws. As for I and my wife, we have some first-hand experience with a mentally ill person and guns. We had brought into our house a relative whose father had thrown him out of the house. At first, I saw him as a victim. Then I started to understand more and more why his father did what he did. The relative was quietly searching our place late at night. When my wife confronted him, he told my wife, coldly, so I can shoot you and myself. I lost many a night's sleep because my wife still felt sorry for him and wanted him to get the help he needed. But he refused to help. He had finally earned enough money to pay back his court fines. And after he sent out the court money, thanks to us, that evening I heard he muttered to himself, I don't need them anymore. After hearing him say this over and over again, I told him I wouldn't think that way. The next day I had my wife call me at work. She was scared. He went off on her. He was on top of her. He had her pinned to the couch. I knew I had to get him out of the house and get him the help he refused to get. That meant going to court and getting a court order to get him under psychiatric care. I had the sheriff pick him up and take him. I found my wife shaking and sandwiched between two of my grandson's girlfriends. One gal was holding a taser. The other one had a small caliber gun under her. The relative wanted the gals to give him a ride into town. When the sheriff deputy came, he tried to make our claims totally false. He was a psychology student and knew how to act when he was there, so they had to release him after 24 hours, even after his father called and testified on our behalf. I told them that he was not going back to our house and to find him a halfway house to stay. I just recently got done cleaning out our fence line and found a box of 22s and a few 38s. I remember him telling me how the 22 was a perfect assassination gun because the bullet wouldn't exit out, but instead bang around and shred the brain. He worked for a neighbor of ours, and when I brought the neighbor the box of 22s to see if he was missing any ammunition, he confided to me that he caught him going through the drawers of one of the places that he was working on, and he had to keep an eye on him. I view this vote by the U.S. conservatives legislators to let the mentally ill have guns far more darkly than most folks for this reason and another. There is another reason why I view the Elkons vote far more darkly. When I was in my 20s, I had a business ethics class. The class had me read the book The Space Merchants by Frederick Pohl and Cyril M. Kornbluth. 1953. The Space Merchants is an old sci-fi book. In the book, companies use the insane to commit assassinations, giving the companies plausible deniability even if they're caught. This is an old book, and using the mentally ill to assassinate is an old idea. Having had such a person under my roof, I know just how easy their paranoia is to get them to kill. Looking at this last decade or so, our mass shootings have been done by a mentally ill person, about half of them. I see Fox News, Sarah Palin target Gabby Giffords, and soon after, her being shot by a mentally insane person. Far more darker, I see Fox News reporting claims that Planned Parenthood is selling body parts. And a mentally ill person goes into Planned Parenthood in Colorado and shoots and kills folks there too. I now see judges who stand up to the Donalds overreaching orders. Donald in the Alcon News claiming that those judges are going to kill folks. And these judges are now forced to have security because of all the death threats. My wife reads more and more posts from Donald Trump supporters. When the Donald says so, we are going hunting. I take them at their words. So should the FBI and law enforcement. I know how easy one can manipulate a paranoid person to killing someone. I've seen that person. In my 20s, I thought the Space Merchants was like totally over the top. But now, in my 50s, I see this book more and more of a prediction of how bad things can be if we let the Olcons win. Understand, you good folks are the safest when the bad guys don't have guns, and you do. I have said in the past, if we stay on this path, I see a day when all good folks are going to need a gun, going to need how to shoot it, going to need to wear it. There will be only one license worth anything, and that will be a carry license. I will also be sad if this day comes. You have the end of part 17F, the Second Amendment. You have a good and blessed day. Bye.